So as I'm starting to look back at the history of Emerald guitars and thinking about the stories that has brought us to where we are today, I think one of the biggest themes that we've had running right the way through the past 10,000 guitars over the last 25 years has been combining guitars and art. And there used to be a section on our old website called The Art of Guitar. And the art of guitar can be two things. It can be three-dimensional sculptures like I did with Bahamut and Draco and the Ultra guitar and those crazy sculpted instruments. But I also have really enjoyed the idea of using a guitar as a three-dimensional canvas, a platform to put art on. And that started way back in the very early days. The first time that I ever used a guitar in that way was for our very first NAMM show, which we went to in January of 2023. And I took two guitars to an artist called Oliver Jeffers in Belfast. And I just gave him two guitars. I said, just go and do something interesting with them. And I had no idea what he was going to do. It was like probably the craziest thing to give him zero brief, other than to just put art on guitars and use them as a canvas. But what Oliver did was, one of them, he made the Stars and Stripes. So in some ways the very first American flag guitar that we ever did, and did it in this quite an abstract form that is very reminiscent of Oliver's work. And Oliver's become a very famous artist since. And one of his key things is his stars and how he does the stars. So we did that, and then the other one was the circus, with this crazy big face and like a circus tent on the back, and it was a really wacky guitar. And we had them at our very first NAMM show. Now, I'll be honest, looking back at it now, I'm sure people were walking up going, what the heck are these? They probably didn't quite fit the theme of what we were doing at the time, but they were conversation starters and they were beautiful art pieces. And I ended up keeping those, and I still have them. They're still in my possession, and I'm really glad that I did, because Oliver's work has become very sought after. So they're probably quite valuable pieces, just as pieces of art. But also for me, it's a story and a connection to our very first NAMM show, and a very formative time. But interwoven then over the years, the next art form that came along was an artist called Emmett Shinners that came to work for me. And during his interview, he started talking about this idea that he had been doing, or this form of artwork that he was doing. And I don't know if he called it Welcome to My Head at the time, but it was doodles, just whatever came into his head, little ideas he was drawing onto just, I think maybe a coffee table. I think he was telling me that he was doing it on. So we come up with the idea of putting that artwork onto a guitar. So over the years, I think we did like 7 or 8 Welcome to My Head guitars, and that was Emmett just sitting down for hours, just doodling, drawing little designs. And there's one behind me here that I managed to acquire back again recently. I think this was one of the very first ones that we ever did. And it was fascinating, because every part of every cartoon is like a part of something else, and every guitar had a little theme or a story running through it. So this one is from a time when my wife was pregnant with I think maybe our 3rd child. So she's on there, and there's other little cool things on there that only we would know. But yeah, it was just a really interesting art form. And so there was, different ideas. Emmett also did one with a map of the world, and which now is on a ship that sails around the world. Let me try and think of the other ones. I guess those are sort of the key ones at that stage. But then an idea came along to do an American flag guitar for the Irish-American artist Robert Mizell. And Robert, I think, is originally from maybe Louisiana, somewhere out there, I think, in the States, but lives here in Ireland and sings country music. And he was looking for a really unique guitar that would maybe speak a little bit of his heritage from the US. And he liked the idea of doing something that was like a vintage American flag. And he came to me with the idea, and I thought, well, yeah, I'd love to do that. Not sure who or how we could do that. But I went online, and luckily I managed to find Phil Atkinson. And Phil Atkinson is a really fine airbrush artist. And I knew it should be done with airbrush. It was just the concept that I had for it. So we contacted Phil, gave him the design idea, sent a guitar to Phil, and the guitar he sent back was just incredible. Way beyond what I had hoped for. And the concept was that it was to look like a worn out American flag wrapped around the guitar, and that's exactly what it was. He nailed it. It was just the most perfect thing that ever could be. And Robert has played that guitar ever since, and it's become a real major part of his story and his music. But that sparked off this whole series. You know, people saw that one American flag, started asking for replicas of that, and you know, similar American flags. And we've done so many American flag guitars over the years, which have been a lot of fun. But then other ideas have come from that. So we've done the Irish flag, we've done the Hands of Unity, we've done a couple of those, which has been a really nice one. Also all done by Phil Atkinson. And the Hands of Unity is like two intertwined hands made out of the American flag and the Irish flag to symbolize the connection really between Ireland and America. And you know, Ireland and America have such a long-standing connection. And you know, so many Irish moved to the US back in the 1800s and continued over the years to do that. But I just really like the idea of intertwining those two things together in a piece of artwork. And we've done checkered flags, we've done various other flags on guitars. There's been a theme of flags, which is in this part of the world can be controversial, but it's really nice to symbolize your heritage. And we've done other things. We did one Lord of the Rings on a guitar, we did one that looked like clouds, we did one with an oceanscape, and it's just been so fun to do and be part of over the years. And you just see these different ones coming through, and somebody comes with an idea, and it fits really well with our theme of, we always say here, we don't just build guitars, we build stories. And the book that was written about us was called Building Stories One Guitar at a Time. You know, and so a guitar with artwork on it, it just has a way of being able to encompass a story and create a story through it. But the one that really stands out above all when I think about art guitars, and it almost gives me goosebumps just thinking of it, and that was the guitar that I took to Tibet to have hand painted. There was a lady that I met in 1992, I think it was, maybe 1993, when I was at college, and she was traveling around the world, and she was an artist and a wanderer and an adventurer. And I met her when she was traveling through our local county here, and her and her friend were traveling together, both artists, and they were looking for somewhere to stay. So I brought them out to my house, and my mother looked after them and gave them food and accommodation for a few days here. And in return, Crystal painted this beautiful picture of a horse, a galloping horse. And it was something that I've had in my office ever since, and something I've always cherished and loved. And a number of years back, I thought, I wonder if I could manage to find Crystal and track her down. It was such a unique name. It didn't take long before I was able to find her. And lo and behold, at that stage, she was living in China. And she had wandered and traveled and adventured ever since, and all through her art. And I discovered she was living in Tibet and running in an art school for Tibetan nomads and monks that wanted to get involved in art. And she was there training them, teaching them her ways, and she had become a very, very fine artist, and was from a family of fine artists. And I got this commission. A customer asked me would I be interested in doing a guitar with Buddhist artwork on it. And his idea was a 9-string guitar that would have artwork depicting different thinkers and philosophers. And I thought about it. I thought, well, it's not something I'm equipped to do, but I know the perfect person to do it. So, so I contacted Crystal and asked her was she interested in doing a special piece. And I think we talked for about 2 minutes before we realized that the only way this was going to happen was if I brought the guitar in person. So I went back to the customer and he agreed on the commission and the idea, and loved the idea that I would take it and have it painted in person in Tibet. And so that's what happened. I built a 9-string guitar, a really unusual and fantastic guitar in itself, and traveled to Tibet, all the way to the little town of Labrang. And just such a wonderful place. It's a monastery town, way out there on the Tibetan plateau, and it was just the most incredible experience. So I went there and just immersed myself in what was going on in her school, and yeah, just such wonderful memories. So Crystal set about painting the guitar, but while she was painting the guitar, myself and Alan, who travelled out along with me, we set about helping them do a plumbing project. There was no running water on the property, so we got involved in being plumbers for the week, and didn't really know anything about plumbing, but we got stuck in, and it was just such a great experience, because while Crystal was painting the guitar, or Tenzin Dolma as she's known out in Tibet, I had this great privilege and opportunity to work along with the students and help them bring running water into their property, and it was just such a fantastic way to get to know them. You know, these people who didn't speak English, and I certainly didn't speak any Tibetan, but when we were digging holes, we just had such a wonderful time. And I'm cutting that story incredibly short because there was just so much happened there, including the morning that I went for a hike up into the mountains and ended up getting, let's just say, attacked by a large dog, which led to me having some interesting experiences in a Tibetan hospital. But yeah, there's been some amazing stories along the way. But you know, I'll keep that whole story for another time. But the story about the artwork is what's the most important. And I love when people come to us with stories and ideas. And there's been so many of these guitars that have commemorated things that are really special. You know, like Rosie the Riveter, the guitar that commemorated John Bell's father and his place in the Air Force. And you know, it's a real privilege to be able to put somebody's story into a guitar, into something that's, you know, then able to make music and inspire and express. So it's been a wonderful theme that's run right throughout Emerald Guitar's history, and hopefully will continue, and we'll find many more artists that we can work with, many more commissions and ideas, and bring many more stories to life. So yeah, guitars and art. Playable art, that's what I like to call it.